we are so pleased to welcome Dr. Ghazi Kaju to HKUST today. So Ghazi is the founder and co-director of SIO Psychology and Consulting in Hong Kong. He is an extremely experienced US licensed clinical psychologist, and he's been licensed since 2004. Ghazi has trained and worked at some of the top educational institutions in the US, including Harvard University, which is where we actually first met when I was a very stressed and anxious graduate student. Ghazi helped me a lot when I was stressed then. And he also, of course, trained at the University of California at Berkeley. So in addition to being a clinical psychologist, Ghazi has worked as a personal or executive coach, as an academic counselor, and as a business and mental health consultant. He is an associate fellow at the Hong Kong Psychological Society. Ghazi himself has had a really fascinating life, and he's written one thriller book, which if you guys have any questions, you can also ask him a little bit more about, his life perspective. But I think without further ado, we'll let Ghazi talk more about his expertise and his insights into stress and anxiety in the times of COVID-19. Thanks, Ghazi. And so for those of you, we are recording. We're hoping to make this recording available with Ghazi's permission to those
Yes,
who
course.
could not attend today. And if you don't see a PowerPoint, do not worry, because Ghazi is going to just speak, right?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eva. I appreciate this nice introduction about me. Uh, Good afternoon, everybody. I am so happy and thrilled to be invited. And I want to thank Pascal and Eva and also Angela uh, for providing support. Seeing familiar faces makes me feel much more less stressed, actually, since the topic is the stress. Uh, The topic of our discussion today will be the effects of stress and anxiety on the brain, consequences in times of COVID-19 on physical and mental well-being. So what is the problem? So I will start with the statement of the problem. Uh, there's a lot of literature, the amount of literature addressing the effects of stress on health has grown tremendously in the past decades. As you might be aware of, research consistently has shown that stress is found to be involved directly or indirectly in the onset and maintenance in mental health issues. Examples including anxiety and depression. Also, it has considerable negative effects on one's physical well-being as well as mental well-being. How about socially? Definitely there is adverse negative consequences for familial and interpersonal relationships. So anywhere we look, too much stress has negative and dire consequences on the organism functioning. Uh, so today we will examine how stress, and also I want to add worry and anxiety. There is a reason why I added worry. Uh, we will examine how stress, worry, and anxiety affect our brain and what are the consequences on us, human beings, on our functioning. Uh, Let me ask the audience, which I wish I could see all your faces, but hopefully some other time I might come to the university and do live presentation. Let me ask, why do we get stressed in the first place? Why do we worry? Why do we feel anxious? Also, what happens in our body when we feel stressed or worried or anxious? I'll come back to that a little bit later. But before we start, I'd like to just address a little bit what are the differences and the definitions. So differences between stress worry, and anxiety. Who can tell me? Anybody can jump in, please. What do you understand the meaning of stress? It could be anything. It could be just a prompt. Can anybody say? Can I hear them, Eva? Can I hear the audience?
They can raise their hand and I'm happy to unmute them. Or they can type you guys can type your answers in the chat. I've already typed out Ghazi's question. So what do you understand to be the meaning of stress? We have Beatrice Wong says pressure overload.
Yes, yes. What else? Because it has many meanings, actually, stress, not one single meaning.
We
So,
have another response. There is a stressor. There has to be a stressor.
okay, what do you mean by stressor? Is it environmental or inside of us?
So Melissa, feel free to answer that follow-up question. We also have a third response. Too much caring about something.
Mm,
Follow-up, so stressor can be like a trigger.
yes.
And then we have a fourth response, because of the unknowns and uncertainties.
Uh-huh.
Another one, something we are worried that we may not be able to manage or handle.
That's great.
Environmental triggers. This is from the original person who put down stressor.
Yes.
From Jack, we have handling more than we usually do.
Okay. Thank you all. We have somebody from Daisy.
Oh, Daisy's just asking us to
Okay.
be reminded to send to panelists and attendees. Thanks, Daisy.
Thank you.
From Ben, we have a mental and emotional factor that causes mental tension.
Yes, yes. I mean, all these answers are wonderful because they.
Oh, sorry. One last one.
Yes,
From
so
Becky.
sure.
Scared about possible failure.
Scared about possible failure, and
Thanks,
this is
guys.
causes this.
We'll let Gazi continue.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you so much. So all the answers that I've heard are really up there. They are good indicators of what is the meaning of stress. Um, for the sake of this presentation, uh, stress could be identified as physiological response to adverse situations, whether external or internal. So it's physiological response that we feel in our bodies. Also, it is a bodily or mental tension, could be both bodily or mental tension that alter our equilibrium, messes up our equilibrium. As you know, uh, all organisms, all systems in nature maintain homeostasis. They seek homeostasis, they seek equilibrium. So when we are out of equilibrium, that could be a factor actually in disease causation. One important aspect of stress that Dr. Lazarus from UC Berkeley talked about is the cognitive appraisal. He emphasized cognitive appraisal of the situation. Researchers before him, like Hans Selye, for example, talked about the stress as environmental or internal pressure on the organism that our bodies respond based on evolution, how it prepared us over millions of years how to handle the stress. However, Lazarus later added very important component. It is our appraisal of the situation that determines whether we feel the stress or not. So remember that for later discussion when we talk about what do we have control over. Sometimes we might not have control over conditions outside of us, stressors from the environment, stressors from work, upheaval, politics, wars, etc. But we have control over how we appraise and how we respond to what is happening around us. So that's the stress. And who can tell me briefly, please, about worry? What do you understand worry is? What is worry?
All right, sorry for the pause. I was typing the question out. So
Yeah, that's okay.
Azzy's question is, who can say briefly your understanding of worry? So again, you can put your answer in question and answer, or you can put it in chat, and I'll be happy to read it out loud for Ghazi. So what is our understanding of worry? Jean says, thinking negatively about something you cannot control.
Yes.
Jean. Ilana, fear of uncertainties.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Those are very good questions. Very good answers.
Feeling of being choked and suffocating. Another is feeling anxiety about potential issues.
Okay.
The stories that my mind creates as a result of stress.
Amazing, Melissa. This is very good, very sharp.
To think about problems or unpleasant things from them.
Those are all very good answers, actually. I'm reminded I'm speaking to very intelligent, accomplished people.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. So yes, you are right. It is basically, the worry is a mind dwelling on negative thoughts and uncertain outcomes of things that could go wrong. So all of you said in one form or another, similar to what I am saying. It is repetitive, obsessive thoughts. Someone said, we cannot control. Yes, it is intrusive, repetitive, obsessive thoughts. We get so exhausted when we enter the worry land. And where does the worry happen? Does it happen in the body or in the mind or both? Anybody?
Okay, so we have from Daisy, Beatrice, both, then both.
Okay.
In the body and in the mind.
How do we experience worry in the body?
Okay, so we have fatigue, heaviness, a feeling of heaviness.
Is that stress or worry?
An imbalanced activity of sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves. Very
okay.
biological. Worry, headache, inability to sleep.
Okay.
Melissa points out that for her, worry might start in the mind, but then the body responds.
Well, all these answers are correct.
A stomach ache from Sophie.
Okay,
yeah.
Stomach ache. Those are, the worry in the body. Of course, it happens in the body, but indirectly. And I will explain that in a minute. But for now, the primary place where we experience the worry is in the mind, because the mind, it is who dwells on negative thoughts. The mind which dwells on uncertain outcomes, and things might go wrong. And later, we're going to come to anxiety. Who can explain what is anxiety? And briefly, please. I would like to leave time for questions later.
I've typed out the question in the chat. So nervousness is one answer. A disorder, a longer term disorder, is another answer. A feeling that cannot be switched off.
You probably will be surprised to hear that anxiety, unlike stress and worry, prehistoric times, we had stress. Evolution equipped us to feel stress, to be stressed. I will come to that in a minute. But worries, when do you think that worries start happening to human beings? Because we lived before, the last 70,000 years. we had like hundreds of thousands and millions of years of evolution. And all these times, prehistoric times, we were stressed, but we did not worry. So what factor you think was a major impetus for the worry? Well, I'll make things easy for you. I will answer my own question unless somebody wants to answer.
I've typed out the question. So you mean major impetus for just worry, right? Not anxiety?
Yeah, just worry.
Okay, just worry, guys. What factor do you think?
If for hundreds of thousands of years we were feeling stressed and learning how to cope with the stress, I'm saying that worry came later. So what event, major historical event that starting us on the road of worry?
So Melissa says survival. Eva says fear or feeling threatened.
Mm-hmm.
Grace says unexpected factors.
Okay. Those are, again, good question, good answers, pardon me. I am looking for the cognitive revolution.
Yeah.
The cognitive revolution that occurred 70,000 years ago. Prior to that, we had the old brain, we call it reptilian brain or mammalian brain, or so it's the old brain. The neocortex start piling on top of the old brain. That's why we call it neocortex. And this is when we start developing little by little higher mental functioning, higher cognitions. In the old days, when I see a lion, for example, eating my neighbor, I will either fight the lion or run away. But after the event has passed, I do not keep dwelling, oh, the lion might come and get me later, because I did not have the neocortex to think about these complex cognitive operations. It's like animals. The lion attacks an animal, for example. At the moment, they remember in the past, yeah, this is dangerous. Let's run away. But they don't sit while they are eating thinking about, oh, is there a lion lurking here? Or is there, sometimes they might feel it intuitively that somebody lurking there, but in general, they don't worry about it. They don't have the cognitive capabilities to do that. And we were like them. However, with cognitive revolution, we start thinking about, oh, we have a lot of berries this season, and maybe we can save some for next year. So that we started planning. And then we started creating stories, uh, get around the campfire and talk stories. This is the first time in history that a species actually start spinning yarns of stories in their minds. Not any other animals, as we know of, can have this tradition of oral transmissions of stories, made up stories of all kinds of things. God of rain, God of hunting, etc., etc. And so we have the war started 70,000 years ago, not like sharp at 70,000, but it took time, of course. So anxiety is actually the culmination of stress and worry. We did not have anxiety before, but the combination of stress and worry makes us feel anxious. So whereas evolutionary adaptability, there is function for stress, there is function for worry, but there is no function for anxiety. Unfortunately, no function. It's just baggage, unfortunately. So who can give me examples of why I say it is adaptive? Stress and worry are adaptive. And based on evolution, we experience them. Anybody?
Melody says, we die if we don't care at all.
we
Very,
die
very
if
true.
we die if we don't care at all. Yes, I if I had the time, I would follow up on that. What do you mean by we die? It's true, but what do you mean? Like break it down to, but it's true. Basically, when we have a stress, it is not under our control. You see a danger, you see animal coming, you know, beast coming towards you, threatening your family. We just something happens in our bodies, in the brain, uh, chemistry, uh, chemical messages. This is how neurons in the brain communicate with each other. And if a lot of messages coming from us, from the sensors to the neurons, there will be enough charge. Anything above 70 millivolt will open sodium channel at the head of the axon, which is the body of the neuron. And the chemical message, it changes to electrical message because we need to go faster, danger. So it jumps on something called nodes, Ranvier nodes. And when they get to the end of the axon, there are little vesicles contains neurotransmitters and hormones. And so when the electric charge hits those vesicles, they open up and release their contents in synaptic cleft. Neurons, we have about 100 billion to 400 billion. We don't know exactly how much, but not one single neuron touches the other. Can you believe that? There is a cliff, there is a space between them. And this is where the other neuron, the second neuron, will have receptors and will latch on whatever neurohormones or neurotransmitters are released. Enough of this scientific explanation, but when there's danger, the messages come to the relay station in our brain called thalamus. And the thalamus releases hormone to the hypothalamus. That's why we call it hypothalamus pituitary axis. The hypothalamus releases hormone to the pituitary to release stress hormones, including cortisol, adrenaline for fight or flight response, and other glucocorticoids. When the danger has passed, we go back to homeostasis. We stop producing cortisol and stress hormones, and we start producing again serotonin, happy neurotransmitters, oxytocin, love. Because in danger, we don't need love. We don't need to be happy. So that's why we don't release them. Wow, that's significant. Do you know why? Because in modern life, stress is continuous. Stress is coming from everywhere. Continuous, continuous, continuous. So our bodies don't have time to go back into equilibrium. So that's why stress is so detrimental to our physical and mental health. Disease prone if we don't know how to handle stress. And I'll come to the topic of how do we manage stress then? If you agree that stress, as I'm explaining it, has very negative consequences on our mental and physical health, what do we need to do? And we need to do interventions early on. Why? Because Hans Selye said, the more we are exposed to stress, enduring stress over and over without adequate resources to cope, we get overwhelmed. Our system gets overwhelmed. Then it doesn't need to take a huge stressor to cause us disease. It takes a simple, we call it tipping point, because we are saturated with stress. Simple news, simple stressful piece of news will send us tumbling. Oh, this life. We start, complaining, etc. And of course, we're going to feel anxious because, again, I said anxiety is the product of stress and worry together. Worry also has adaptability. Why? Because if I worry, I don't have money, and I need my kids, for example, to have a better life than their daddy or mommy, and they need to go to college, and I see my job is not providing me enough, I start worrying, then I will do action. I need to do an action. But unfortunately, with the stress, we become immobilized, we become indecisive. So stress goes a long way. So my recommendation is first and foremost, we deal with the stress and it will take care of the worry and anxiety because the less stressed we are and the less worried we are, the less anxious we are, right? So if we said that we experience stress in the body and in the mind, and we experience worry in the mind and indirectly in the body, coping has to involve the body and the mind. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah, of course. So I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions. What do you think some of the coping, the effective coping management for dealing with perpetual enduring stress like modern life in Hong Kong or New York or one of those big cities? From your experience or from your knowledge?
Melissa says yoga. Becky says having a pet. Beatrice says practicing mindfulness.
Very good. Excellent.
Jason says sleep. I agree.
Excellent, Jason. If you know what time I woke up today.
Jen says sports. King Fat says eating.
Eating?
Eating.
Eating, lovely. Are we talking about healthy eating or emotional eating?
King Fat is emotional eating or healthy eating. Jason adds walking and cycling.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. So that's all true because the person who said yoga is amazing. Of course, yoga, exercise in all its forms, running, bicycling, swimming, whatever you like, make sure we like what we are doing because more likely to have enduring habits if we enjoy what we are doing. But if we do it because other people doing it or it's in vogue, we're less likely to be motivated to continue waking up every day and doing exercise. And the person who said mindfulness, I like you. I like that person because mindfulness actually is a big, huge topic umbrella and it has a lot of scientific basis on the benefits for our physiological responses and our cognitive responses. And depending on the time, I might address that a little bit later. Uh, so there is one more thing you can do. I would like to practice it with you now for a few minutes. Have you heard of something called progressive muscle relaxation? Okay,
A mix of yeses and nos,
okay.
as well as a no haha.
So the idea behind progressive muscle relaxation, somebody stumbled upon if we tense our bodies, if we stress our bodies intentionally and hold the tension intentionally and then release, we will have a flow of blood into all the tissues and relaxation will come. Don't believe me? Let's practice it. So please sit back comfortably in your seat and close your eyes gently and take a deep breath and exhale. Take another deep breath and exhale. Try to focus on my voice, focus on your breathing, be aware of the chair underneath you, your feet on the floor, be aware of your body. And let's start the exercise. We're going to take slow, long inhale. And while we're inhaling, we're going to tense our right foot, gradually tense and take a deep breath and hold the tension and hold the breath. Just the right foot and release. Move your attention to your right lower leg. And again, let's breathe and tense lower leg little by little until all the lower leg is tense, and hold the tension and hold the breath. Hold, hold with the tension and let go. Let's go to the right upper thigh. Again, take a deep breath, inhale, and start tensing your thigh, right one, and hold, 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 and release. We're going to do the same thing on our left side. Start with your left foot. Take a deep breath and start tensing your left foot. Tense, tense, and hold the tension for a few seconds. Hold, hold, and release. Move the attention to your left lower leg. And let's go. Breathing and tensing the lower leg, tensing. And then when all of it tense, we hold the tension. Hold, hold, and let go. Then we move up to the left thigh. Take a deep breath and you start noticing you are more relaxed. Take a deep breath and start tensing your thigh. Tense the left thigh and hold. Hold the tension. And let go. And now your midsection. Take a deep breath and start tightening your buttocks, your pelvis, your hips, and whatever areas are there. Tense and hold. Hold and let go. I'm so relaxed, I'm going to have a nap. Now let's do the abdomen. And we take a deep breath and hold your abdomen and also the chest at the same time. Abdomen and chest. Hold, hold, hold the tension and release. And now the upper chest and the shoulders. Take a deep breath first and start tensing slowly. Upper chest and shoulders. And then hold the tension. Hold the tension and release. Let's go to the back, starting from the lower back, then middle back, then upper back. Take a slow, long, deep breath while you start tensing your lower back. Go up to your middle back, go up to your upper back, and tense, tense. You're going to be tensing your shoulders too, because you can't help it. And hold, 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 and release. Let's do the arms, starting with the fingers. Take a deep breath. Tense your fingers, your hands, your forearms, and your upper arms, biceps, triceps, and shoulders. And hold the tension. Hold it, and release. Now we're going to go to the neck. Since everybody is closing their eyes, hopefully, don't be concerned about people looking at you making weird faces. Let's take a deep breath and tense our neck. But try not to strain too much the neck. It is sensitive. Okay, take a deep breath and start tensing the neck, front, back, and sides. And hold the tension. Hold the tension. Hold the tension and let go. Lastly, we're going to start tensing our facial muscles and our scalp. You take a deep breath and start tensing your forehead, your nose, your cheeks, your jaw, ears, and the top of your head, all your head, and hold the tension. With a fist, make a fist, hold your tension, and let go. And the last one, I promise, we're going to do the whole body. We're going to take a long, deep slow breath. You might need to take 2 or 3 breaths depending on your experience with this. We're going to start from the feet, going up, 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 up to the head. Okay, so let's start breathing. Remember, you can take more than one breath. Let's start breathing, tensing both feet, both lower legs, tense both thighs, buttocks, hips, abdomen, sternum, tense your chest, lower back, middle back, upper back. Tense your arms, hands, fingers, neck, face. Make a face. Tense your head. Take a deep breath and hold the tension and the breath. All your body tense. And let go. Take a moment to observe your physical, physiology, and mental states. Pay attention to your breathing. Did it change? Did it become deeper? Did it become slower? What happened? I bet if you are like me, you are more relaxed now. So this is, we can do it anytime we feel emotional arousal, anytime we feel stressed, anytime we feel we're arguing with our loved ones, anytime we hear news about infections, COVID-19, hospitals, full stress everywhere. So this is, we can do it at any time at our disposal, whether sitting on a bus. You don't do the face on the bus, of course, but you do the lower body. Even in an interview, you have an interview, we can do everything without anybody noticing if we don't do the face. All right, so far so good? So far so good. I'm
I think
assuming so
so.
far so good. Yeah, okay,
Very relaxed.
okay. I do have 20 minutes. I put it 20 minutes for questions, but I will make it 15 because I want to address the mindfulness. If one thing I encourage you to do beside progressive muscle relaxation and exercise and eating healthy, of course, and sleeping, of course, mindfulness, briefly, it has 5 aspects of mindfulness. The first aspect is observation. What do I mean by observation? Please close your eyes and sit up straight, and your breathing by now is gentle and deep and slow. You're going to raise, even though your eyes are closed, but you're going to raise your gaze upward, slightly upward, and you, as if you are watching your mind. Your job is to observe your thoughts. The goal is not to stop thinking. We cannot stop thinking, but observe your thoughts without engaging with them. Just let them pass like clouds in front of you. Let's do it for a minute or two. Go ahead. And anytime you feel like you engage in a thought, no matter how appealing, just come back to watching, observing the thoughts. Don't forget to continue breathing. Okay, some of you might find it really difficult not to engage with the thought if we haven't practiced this. But with the practice, like everything else, there is the brain has, as you know, science have shown that neuroplasticity of the brain allows for neural connection and new connections in the brain. So new habits, when we keep doing training in the new habits, we call it the high road. It overcomes the old dysfunctional, unhealthy, automatic behavior that we usually do. So we need just to practice. The other aspect of mindfulness beside observation is refrain from judgment. Like close your eyes, and keep little bit lid open underneath your eyes and look at your clothes. Just focus on your clothes without judging them. I look good, I look bad, they're pretty, not pretty. Don't get involved. If you're sitting next to a neighbor, if you're thinking of somebody doing hair, cutting hair, whatever, just no judgment. Don't judge yourself. Be kind to yourself. Don't judge, am I doing this right? Gosh, I'm competitive. I need to do it and get to the Buddhist Zen Nirvana now. Be gentle to yourself. And the third one is describing emotion, labeling your emotions. You close your eyes again, and instead of fighting with the emotion, what am I feeling, etc., just mindfulness is to attend to your emotions, like what we did with the thoughts, observing the thoughts come and go. Emotions, if you really observe the emotions, you can say, I'm feeling anxious, or Ghazi in the third person, Ghazi feeling anxious. This is a little bit a step away from you, so you don't become your anxiety. Ghazi is feeling excited. Ghazi is feeling happy. It's just objective uh, observation. You are doing nothing but describing the feeling. You're not saying, God darn it, anxiety again, I can't stand it. No, we're not going to do that. That's mindfulness that is adaptive, is by we're using it to deal with our anxiety, with our stress. The fourth one, non-reactivity. As I mentioned earlier, we have control on how to respond to situations outside of us. We don't have control, pardon me, for situations outside of us. We only have control of how do we respond. So do you want to stay a reactive person most of our lives? No, we don't want to be reactive to things because things don't stop hammering us. We need to protect ourselves. How do we do that? We become active, not reactive, active but with awareness. What do I say with awareness? Because unlike the automatic, dysfunctional, unhealthy habits that the brain have developed over reinforcement thousands and thousands of times, when we have awareness, I have a choice. I would say, okay, how do I want to act in this situation? Not react, but how do I want to act? My action, is it helpful for me or not helpful? If it is helpful for me, I want to do it if it doesn't harm anybody else. If it harms somebody else, I'm not going to do it because I am a moralistic person, for example. Like most of us, we mean well, we are kind. And the less stressed, the less anxious we are, the less worried we are, the more empathic we are, empathetic with others, the more compassionate and the more patient we are. But under stress, like what happened with the coronavirus, we have been here since a year, not traveling, uh, and what happened with the demonstrations, with all the politics, with Donald Trump, with the whole world, it's non-stop hammering us. So if the action that I'm about to do doesn't harm anybody and is good for me, I want to do it. If it's not good for me, the choice is easy. I don't want to do it. This is easier said than done because some people, I acknowledge, they have issues, for example, with habits, addiction, alcohol. Some people like to have wine to wind down after a hectic day at work. Wine becomes one glass, becomes two glasses, become a bottle, become two bottles, and we justify, we rationalize. No judgment whatsoever. Those people, uh, they are getting something out of their habits. That's why we cannot judge. And for those people, I encourage if they cannot quit totally because instead of doing something to cope in this manner, we use effective coping, like running, like swimming, like loving our family, loving our partners, our spouses, our friends. uh, meditation, mindfulness. But those who are difficult for them to quit, it's threatening to say, I'm going to abstain all my life. No, you do harm reduction. Harm reduction meaning one less day of drinking in a week. That's harm reduction. You made it one day. You give more confidence that I could do it one day. Sometime in the future, you can do more than one day, 2 days. So my message for you is the stress is real killer for in our modern times, and we cannot let it go too late to cope with it because our system will be overwhelmed already. So as we start paying mindful attention to what's going on with our bodies, we can realize we are stressed and we can intervene using the coping skills and the management skills that some of you have rightfully said and identified the answers and what I shared with you. Uh, there are two items I did not because of the time limit. I would have loved to do it, but hopefully if I'm invited again, I want to include something about cognitive processes. We talked about physiological processes, what do we do to cope, but there is a cognitive element to cope as well, which I will do hopefully some other time. Also, there is a wheel of balance, which is important to balance our lives between work, between friendship, relationships, between self care, and so forth and so forth. That's called the wheel of balance. Hopefully, we can do it some other time. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you found or you're finding the presentation or the webinar helpful for you. Not only helpful, but enjoyable. As I mentioned to Angela sometime, I said to her, people who enjoy the presentations will remember it more than when it's boring. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. And now we open for questions. You can ask me any question you have.
Thanks so much, Ghazi.
You're welcome.
I've already noted in the chat. So, right. So if you have any questions for Ghazi, please feel free to put it in the chat in the Q&A, or you can raise your hand directly, be brave and ask Ghazi directly.
Eva?
Yes.
Is Pascal with us?
I believe Pascal is, yes. Pascal.
I can see her, but I can see her microphone muted.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Pascal, if you are there. Any questions about the brain, neurons? I am big in biology. I'm big in evolutionary biology. I respect biology so much and chemistry. I respect evolution so much.
If no one has a question, I will ask a question
Yeah,
as the host. So I think Ghazi's presentation was super helpful for us to deal with stress and anxiety and worry as individuals, right? But since we are faculty members and staff members here, we often have to teach. So we have students who might also be stressed, or we have a lot of meetings. And I think perhaps some of you agree with me that I think we can tell that there are times now when we're in a meeting, you can tell there's sort of this collective stress. And that can lead to, misunderstandings and small conflicts and maybe even more stress as a group. Do you have any advice for how to sort of diffuse that? Or if you prefer talking about it in terms of students, how can we help our students?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course. The best analogy I give is having worked in so many places, like you mentioned, Berkeley and Harvard and University of Oregon, and private practice, that is. I've seen how psychologists handle stress, right? It's like when I talk about meditation, when I talk about mindfulness, exercise, I need to model to my clients what I am saying. So I need to be able to have experience that backs up what I say, because it will be a hypocrite. I'd be a hypocrite if I don't do these things and tell them you need to do this, you need to do that. Anybody can read a book or write a book about what you need to do, but doing it is really the commitment to self-health and mental and physical health. So yes, by you, hopefully you got something out of this presentation. Start with anything that appeals to you and start practicing it. I know many of you do many different things, uh, but choose those things that you might add to your repertoire of effective management. And the more you are mindful, the more you're aware, you can detect your students getting stressed. And I don't know if it is depending on the class. I don't know if it's appropriate to say, "Hey, what's going on? I see everybody is freaking out or something." So I don't have a specific uh, advice on how to deal with that, because it's dependent on the type of the class, dependent on the type of the interaction and what's happening. But I just go back and emphasize that the leaders, the faculty, uh, would do well by modeling to their students healthy behaviors, effective coping skills, effective management skills, organizational skills. And, when things like technical difficulties definitely happens, when we don't lose our cool, we say we will deal with it one way or another. If I've been working 2 3 days on my slides and the slide projector is not working, I say, well, it is what it is. How do I want to react? How do I want to cope? And I will cope by making positive outlook rather than negative outlook. Positive, hey, it's opportunity for me to let people hear my accent. I'll talk more. Something like that. I hope this has answered your question, Eva.
I think so. Yeah, I think most of us seem to have, uh, okay, we see a comment from Jack.
Uh-huh.
I heard from first year students feeling depressed as what they are experiencing is far different from their expectations. Jack, I'm assuming probably from in terms of the university experience, because obviously for our UG students, it's quite different this year compared to previous years.
Okay. That's very good. Very good answer. Yes.
So I think oh, okay. So Jack has a question. How should we advise or comfort these students?
How shall you advise or comfort students? Uh, I think, first of all, to recognize our limitations. Uh, if we are non-professionals, but you can be empathetic. You can provide a listening ear and refrain as much as possible from providing advice. Advice really doesn't work. Sometimes in my work, I ask permission from my clients if I want to give advice. May I tell you something, what I believe, what I think? But in general, we don't offer advice. We don't fix. We don't try to fix. We just, if we asked, do you know of any method that I can feel better about? Yeah, then if you know, absolutely, this is very relative and you can, very suitable, and you can do that. But in general, providing empathy, emotional support, and being there for the other person. And you can ask, is there anything you would like me to do? Is there anything you need that we can provide for you? Is it maybe he just or she just needs to talk? Maybe they want to vent. But we refrain usually from giving advice and from fixing things. I hope this answers your question.
I hope that was useful, Jack. Before we let Ghazi go, as I mentioned in my introduction, so Ghazi is the founder of SIO Consulting. Ghazi, in these recent years, what are some of the more common issues that you see among Hong Kongers?
Okay. Uh, Prior to the COVID-19 or during.
Maybe in these past 2 years. So not
Yes,
only COVID, but also with the social unrest.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, before the social unrest and the COVID, most of my clients, you know, it's usually relationship issues, those who are partnered, uh, because, too much work, Hong Kong or like New York or somewhere. It's just work, 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 and less time for the friendship, less time for the family, for the wife, less time for the self. So we get exhausted home. And when you go home, if your wife working or your spouse working or not working, she needs to share with you something. The man usually says, "Honey, you have no idea what kind of blah blah blah." So relationship issues that they are not communicating, they are not giving time to each other, they are not nurturing their relationship. And when we don't nurture any relationship, when we don't give it attention, it withers and we start getting distances. Uh, Depression and anxiety is the mainstay, like those could be at any time. Uh, and some people, for example, jobs, more, wanting to, not sure what do they want to do in life. Some people are in either contemplation stage or action stage. They want to make the move, but they're afraid to make the move. Uh, with the COVID and with the demonstrations, things have shifted dramatically. People are much, much more stressed, much more than any other time in all my, I don't know, 16 years of practice. Uh, Very stressed and worried, uh, big time. And of course, like I mentioned, my dissertation, which is published, I don't have you can look it up. Uh, it's about how stress, correlation between stress, anxiety, and depression, and the role of mindfulness in modulating these states. So, we know that high stress causes anxiety, causes depression, etc. I really feel with my clients, all of them, and I am very good in taking care of myself. I have been taking more days off, more weeks actually in my work to rejuvenate. Yes, no travel, but it was opportunity for me to know Hong Kong intimately. I've been here 9 years, and because my wife is from Hong Kong, I tend to rely on her to say like Wang Fong, Saigon, and all this stuff. But now we are really took another sport, water sport, which I love like as much as running, amazingly good, and going to certain areas in Hong Kong just to get to know Hong Kong. Then I come back to work more rejuvenated and more able because the clients, understandably, they are more frustrated and more demanding. And I cannot be any other way in my work with my clients except to be fully engaged with them. So I don't have shortcuts. Uh, so I hope this brief what I am seeing differences before and after and during these times.
Thanks so much, Gazi.
You are
We
welcome.
actually had one final question, but I think
Yeah,
we've run out of time.
it's okay. You can ask it
Oh,
if you
okay.
if you have time.
All right. So, Gazi, feel free to cut yourself off if you run out of time. From Ben, we have a question about how we can ask students to quantify their stress levels. And then from Samuel, we have a question um, that it seems that maybe people in Hong Kong seem to be more emotionally unstable compared to from this person's home country.
Mm.
Is there, I guess the question is there a way to help people's instability in terms of their emotions? So answer however you want in the time that you have left with us. And
Yeah.
thanks, guys.
I personally, I don't see people in Hong Kong are more or less than any other average populations everywhere. Some countries, every country culturally, they experience their stressors in their own unique way and they handle it in their own unique way. as Ben's question about quantifying stress, I'm not sure if you're referring to objective measures to measure the level of stress. Is that what you mean? And if not, can you elaborate on what do you mean by quantifying the stress?
Ben says yes.
So, okay, uh, if you want to, scientifically, if you want to quantify the stress, as I understand it, you can go to your physician, to your clinic at the university or somewhere, and take a swab of your saliva to measure the cortisol and the stress hormones levels. And they will tell you whether you are stressed or not. Another way to show that you are stressed, you have your Apple Watch, smartwatch. You can always check your heart rate and check your blood pressure. Whatever you're doing, when your heart rate exceeds 100, while resting, not exercising, you disengage from whatever you're doing, whether it's argument with a friend, whether argument with a spouse, or with a coworker, because that will lead to escalation when we are so activated, when we are so stressed. So this is one other way of quantifying the stress. How do you know that somebody is stressed? Or you can ask them, where do you feel the stress? What's causing you to be stressed? uh, what have you done to cope with the stress? So you ask open-ended questions to be curious and to make the other person feel, wow, yeah, you're giving them time and you are interested in their well-being without, again, giving them advice or fixing their problem. Or you should go rock climbing or should jump parachute. It might be valuable advice, but if not asked, I would not offer it on my own.
Okay, thanks, Ben. All right, we just have one last question about helping people with emotional instability. But again, Ghazi, up to you in terms of how you want to answer and how much time you want to use.
Yes. Emotional stability is a big topic, actually, really emotional stability, because what are the factors that are contributing to the emotional instability? What are the factors that are making it endure for a long time, exasperates, make it worse? So we need to understand what kind of factors. And non-clinicians might be at disadvantage in this one because it's a big topic. I mean, there is genetic component, there is personality component, there is environmental component. Uh, so it's a vast topic and would not do justice impromptu to be answering it like that. Short of saying, refer them to me, just ask them to call Dr. Ghazi. And I'll be very happy to see them if I have room.
All right.
All right.
Hope it's okay. All right. So hello.
Welcome back. Welcome
Yes,
back.
I had to turn on my video so I didn't pop up next to you, which would be
That's all right.
inconvenient for you. All right, so thanks so much, first of all, Ghazi, of course, for taking the time out of your busy schedule, and I know it's very busy, to speak with us. And also, of course, our faculty and staff are always very busy. Even with a lunchtime meeting, a lot of people actually emailed me, including our president, emailed me to say that they unfortunately had obligations that they couldn't set aside. But they're really excited about the recording. And for those of you who took the time, took the hour plus to come to this webinar, thank you so much. If you have any other further questions, I believe Ghazi's contact information you can easily find on his website for SIO Consulting. Or if you can't find it, you can email me, Eva E. Chen at UST.HK, and I'd be happy to forward your questions to Ghazi and be sensitive to your privacy, of course. All right, so I guess that's it.
I have a couple just quick things to say. I want to thank everybody for coming and showing up for these presentations. I know that the time is valuable, very valuable for faculty because, as Eva mentioned, I was at Harvard academic advisor, and it happened that I taught a class And I know how precious your time is. So to sacrifice 1 hour to come and listen to a presentation, not knowing how it's going to go, is an act of courage. I appreciate that a lot. And my second point is, Angela, you are so quiet. Where is she?
She went off. She had to teach.
She has to teach.
Yes,
Okay. Anyway, okay. Well, say hi to bye to her for
I
me.
will.
And thank you, Eva, very much, actually. And thank you, Pascal, for organizing this, helping organize this. And thanks for inviting me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye,
Bye,
everybody. Good luck.
guys.
Bye.